Trafficking is a term that's used quite broadly, so this involves women who have, in the traditional sense, or what the sort of common conceptualization of trafficking is, have been taken from one place and brought to another place. Or it also can encompass any kind of sale of a woman for sex, whether that is the sale of a woman for sex within Philadelphia, whether it's the sale of a woman for sex across state borders, and or making interactions or exchanges across pimps, so selling a woman from one pimp to another pimp. So it's a pretty broad definition, and some of the women identify more with the trafficking definition than other women do.
Well, the money in this is incredible because you have these commodities. These ladies are the commodities, and you can sell them over and over and over and over again every single day. So that is a way to make a lot of money in a relatively short period of time. Talk about people who make money on drugs. This, depending on how good you are at it, can make more.
The idea that there's a market for this, so it's like any other market, supply and demand. So I think every country has a supply and every country has a demand, and the way that they fill that demand and the way that they find that supply might vary, but the general economic principle remains the same.
It's a disservice to say that it's just trafficking or what people would call sex work. That there's a very, very important spectrum in there, particularly economic coercion.
I think that when people think of sex trafficking, they, first of all, don't think it's happening to domestic people, adults and children. I think that if you say sex trafficking, you're thinking that something is happening in a developing country. Or if it is happening in the US, that it's happening to foreign nationals who've been brought here to be sold for sex. They have no idea that it's so prevalent, and it's happening all day, every day in our very own communities throughout Pennsylvania. This is not limited to the urban areas of Pennsylvania. Capturing statistics of commercial sexual exploitation is, I don't want to say impossible, but it's next to impossible. So we don't know what it looks like in any given jurisdiction in the US. I mean, sexual exploitation is an underground industry, and the victims of sexual exploitation do not self-identify for the most part.
There's not one common narrative. We've seen women who have college degrees, who have master's degrees, who are nurses, many who are mothers. Some are uneducated, some have suffered from poverty and homelessness. So we've seen a range of stories.
Who has this happened to? This does run along poverty lines, absolutely.
Some people are exchanging sex to survive or feeling that they have to. How is that? What are we going to do about that?
Let's talk about a hypothetical victim. She's a runaway. She was a runaway from home, and then the child welfare system got involved, and she doesn't like her family because it's either her mom who's not in the picture anymore, or mom has issues, or there's a family member or family friend who's been sexually abusing her. And she's run away and come back and run away and come back, and she's met someone who's older who has made all of these promises to her. I love you, I'll take care of you, has purchased things for her like clothing and food, and it's like that whole grooming process. And then he turns her out into the life, and she has to prostitute in order to pay their rent. Well, if you love me, we need to live someplace, I can't afford the rent by myself, so you have to help, and this is how you do it. And in her mind, she's thinking, well, he loves me and he's promising to take care of me, so this is better than what I ran away from. And so she is looking at this as, I chose this.
Their pimps have worked really hard to condition them to believe that this is their choice. You love me, this is part of what we do, and if you left, nobody would ever believe you, you're participating in acts of crime with me, etc. And so I think that just adds up to people believing that this is their choice.
I've never met, and I don't think anybody else has either, met a little girl that says, well, when I grow up, I want to be a prostitute. That's just not what someone desires or sees themselves as doing when they're grown up. None of these women intended to be prostitutes. They intended to have a better life and leave their home and find it.
Is not well understood. I think that a lot of times people feel that prostitutes are choosing that lifestyle in a very direct kind of way, where they have all these options and they're picking on a moral basis that that's what they want to engage in. And that's just really not how things usually happen. When we look at these larger issues and where they stem from, it's really about poverty, it's about gender issues in general in society. It's about drug and alcohol related issues, which of course stems from poverty because of depression and anxiety. And
you know, we have one of the harshest penalties for prostituted persons in the U.S. Awful. You can go to state time, state prison, and do up to 5 years in state prison for the crime of prostitution. When you don't need to be incarcerated, you need social services. You need, that person needs therapy and drug treatment and other employment opportunities in a safe home. That's what they need. They don't need to go to jail. Society at large needs to look at this as a human rights issue. Men and women both are feminists. This is an issue that isn't exclusive to women and girls. It's for all of us. Why is it a sanctioned activity to objectify women and girls and purchase them for sex? Why have we given this a pass? And we've given it a pass